Hello everyone, my name is Laura McHenry. To get started here, I'm just going to briefly introduce myself so you guys can get to know me a little bit more. So I got my bachelor's degree in agricultural and extension education from Penn State. I graduated from there in May of 2022, and I've been teaching. This will be my third year. I'm currently at Donegal High School, and I get to teach 9th and 10th grade science. More specifically, I get to teach environmental science and biology. At the high school, I advise the Minithon Club, so it's a super cool opportunity for me to get to interact with students outside of my classroom, and it's for a great cause. Some hobbies that I enjoy, really anything outside. I like hiking, biking, nature photography. I included a picture of me and my dog Luna there. She likes to tag along with us whenever she can. So those are some of the things about me. I'm going to jump into some of our content from this week. Okay, so my online learning and teaching experience. So as a learner, the only experience I really got online was when COVID hit around 2020. Most of my classes then went virtual or online. Through that, kind of working through that, the two main takeaways I got from that was we focused a lot on communication and mental health awareness. So my professors focused a lot on making sure we were communicating with them, and then also communicating with my peers in my educational cohort. And then that mental health awareness piece, I think, still kind of stems off from that today. I still see that while teaching, but kind of just having this emphasis on the fact that although you are in an online environment, you are still interacting with a person or a human. So just having that empathy piece and understanding everyone's situation. And that was something big that I kind of felt was like a big takeaway from that COVID era, and I still see that today. As a teacher, the only online experience I really have was part of my student teaching experience. So I am really used to just face-to-face instruction, so that traditional classroom environment. However, I do utilize some online tools to help enhance my student engagement and understanding. I play a lot of online games. We use Schoology at my high school, so all of my content is on there, and students kind of work through it in that online environment. They can message me on there. So I kind of use it to enhance my students' learning, but everything is still face-to-face. Some key stuff I got from the first article was that in an online experience, you can still create that personalized education where you're tailoring the needs or tailoring the instruction to meet your students' needs. So that's something where whenever I am putting instruction in an online format, I make sure that it's kind of meeting my students' needs still. And being able to provide that variety of media and experience is definitely something that an online experience can enhance. So whether it's through videos or students making a podcast or a project online, I definitely think that it's a benefit for them, and they're also learning new skills. And that kind of takes me to that last point there, that being a teacher and being a learner, it is definitely a different set of skills that is required when you are working in that online format. So whether they are skills that you've mastered or skills that haven't even really been formed yet, I think with all of the online technologies and tools, a lot of it is so new and is still kind of changing that I think it's also evolving education. So I think just me as a teacher understanding that I need to be flexible and willing to kind of try out new things in my classroom and see if they work, and if they don't, just totally fine. Okay, so the standards for quality online teaching. So I'm going to talk about the skills that I think I have developed in my classroom, and then some skills I'm definitely still focusing on. So dedication and motivation. I'm definitely motivated to teach my students science. It's something that I'm passionate about, and I try and get my students motivated and passionate about as well. Being in that face-to-face environment, I rely a lot on my colleagues and being able to ask them for help whenever needed. But something from the article that was a takeaway for me is that when you're in that online environment, some keywords I got were independent and isolated. So being an online educator, those were words that you can feel independent, you can feel isolated in that environment. So that's something I think I would struggle with. Organization, so being aware that although you're in that online environment, you still need to be organized. You still have to set clear expectations for students, clear deadlines, and clear directions. So that awareness is important, was something that I kind of tied into that organization piece. Some skills I'm still focusing on: flexibility. So learning my students' needs right off the bat, working with them and getting to know them better as a learner, so that I can suit their individual needs of the learners. So that's that flexibility piece that I'm definitely still learning. I mentioned being passionate about science. I definitely am, but sometimes I struggle with understanding that students might not be. So focusing on motivating them, making them curious about the world around them is something I kind of need to still work on. And the last one there is patience. So understanding that when you're in that online environment and something goes wrong, you might not be able to fix it immediately. So having grace and understanding that things might take time, especially if you're working in that online environment. And the last key takeaway I got from the article was make connections with students as quick as possible. I have been told that by my mentor and fellow teachers, that it is super important that you make connections with students right off the bat, so that way you can rely on them, fall back on them throughout the school year. Alright, so online education versus face-to-face instruction. Although they might look different, there was definitely some similarities in terms of the qualities of an effective teacher. So the first one's personal responsibility. I think being an educator, no matter the setting, you are still obligated to hold up those professional responsibilities. So making sure you are professionally developing and you are ensuring you're qualified and prepared to teach. Diverse instruction. So this is also an obligation of teachers to make sure that you are learning your students' accommodations, you are meeting their needs, and that you are willing to support them when they might be struggling. So whether that's online or in person, I think that's highly important. And finding that support system, that whether it's a support teacher or anyone in their family that can kind of help support them in their environment. Last one there is assessment and measurement. I put this in the similarities category because it's very important that no matter how you are teaching students, you are assessing them prior to moving on so that they can make connections and they're understanding the content, even if it might look different. Alright, moving into differences. So the biggest one here is digital pedagogy. So although you might be a face-to-face teacher in a traditional classroom and you're using digital tools, I think as soon as you go to fully online there, that digital pedagogy is very, very important. So understanding that you have a wide array of digital tools that you can use to enhance your course. The next one there is community building. To me, this is one of the most important aspects, like I mentioned, like getting to know your students early on, of creating like a successful classroom. But I think that this one looks really different if it's online or in person. So if you are in that online environment, making sure you are creating a setting where students feel they can share their opinions and be respected. So things like discussion posts, group projects, having them create podcasts. So making a space where students feel they can share their learning. And then the last one there is instructional design. This one obviously is going to be different depending on if it's face-to-face or in person. So online, making sure you're making that design instructional and intentional with diverse media and digital tools. And that goes back to that digital pedagogy. Okay, so the hardest qualities of an online teacher. For me, diverse instruction would definitely be one. So if I have a student who's online and they are requiring specific accommodations or supports, it might be hard for me to recognize that without being able to work with them in person. Kind of those first few weeks are when I get to interact with my students and learn how they learn best. So not being able to do that would definitely be a struggle for me. So once again, I think that would just fall back on me having to rely on that built-in support system that that student hopefully has. Learner engagement. would definitely be challenging. I think being a science teacher, I rely a lot on those hands-on activities, labs, experiments, and just like fully immersing students in that kind of environment. So just understanding that if it's online, it's going to look a little different. And that would just take time for me to learn about the different online tools and technologies out there where I can kind of simulate that in an online environment. And then with that last article there, some challenges with online teaching. Out of the three, the biggest one for me would definitely be the control over content. I have fun with the autonomy I get in my like traditional classroom. So being able to just rely on standards to guide me, but then taking it day by day, basing everything off my learners, and just kind of having fun with the content. I think being online, it would be a little bit harder to do that. And then they also mentioned in the article that a few online teachers mentioned that they struggle with not being able to accommodate or adjust content based on the learner's needs as easily. So just understanding that you might lose that flexibility piece in terms of accommodations, or lose that control in being able to accommodate, I think would also kind of be a struggle. So overall, I learned a lot about the different benefits and also the challenges with online teaching.